Okay.
Yeah. The reason I Hi everyone. We are live for day 2 of the Cozy Kwanzaa Reflectathon live show. Um, I am here with the lovely Noria from Chronicles of Noria, live from Lagos. Um, so the as we're waiting for
Hi.
people to come in,
Hi.
um, just to let you know a couple of things. So, Kwanzaa is an African American celebration. It runs from December 26th to January 1st. The purpose is to assist people to think about liberation and emancipation during the holiday season in a way that's very focused on the experiences of Black folks. Um, and the Kwanzaa Reflectathon is an annual event on BookTube, started in 2018, where we reflect on our reading. So rather than being a readathon that requires you to read, which no one really does during the holidays. There's not a lot of time to do it. What the Reflectathon does is encourage people to really be more meaningful and deliberate and purposeful about
Yeah.
what they've read. So this is the first time that we've done live shows. So yay 2020 new things. And I've invited, hey Tomi, I've invited a guest for each day of the Kwanzaa Reflectathon so that we can hear that guest
Hi,
talk about
Tommy.
their particular perspectives on the principle, how their reading has matched up with that principle, and then wherever the conversation wants to go. So that is the intro, and I'm so happy to have you joining Noria. You are such a creative booktuber. You spend a lot of time perfecting your content. Your channel has grown by leaps and bounds this year, and you've created a few new things this year. So on your own platform. So why don't you just talk a little bit about who you are, what purposeful reading is for you, and maybe what your thoughts are on Kwanzaa, also as somebody who is African living on the continent. It'd be interesting to hear your perspective since it's a diasporic celebration.
Yeah. So hello everybody. Like Jerry said, I'm Noria. I live in Lagos, Nigeria. And I have been reading since I was 6, about 5, 6. It started off as a means to find which is what goes into my mind every time I like read purposefully. I take a journey back to why I started reading. I started reading because my stepfather gave me a book because he noticed that I was drifting, right? He
Yeah.
noticed that I was drifting. I'd come from a situation where I'd been shuffled between relatives for a period of like 2 years. So nothing was a constant in my life. And I think he noticed when my mom married him and we moved to the house that he noticed that I was waiting for the other shoe to drop, and I was waiting for, and I was not breathing. And he put in this collection of fairy tales in my hands, and it was like, I think you would like this. And I read it, and I read it again, and I read it several times. And that was the first thing I ever owned, like the first ever belonging I ever owned, and it was a book. But it was also when I realized that not only were books an opportunity for me to connect with other people, first being my stepfather and then my other friends that came after that, but also they were a lifeline as well. And they about life, about being myself, about being true to myself. It's since then it's been over 2 decades of that journey, and every single time I find a new book that I learn from, it brings me joy. So that for me is what purposeful reading is about. It's a lifeline, it's a connection, and it's a way to know yourself better and also become a better version of who you are. Not changing for anybody else, but just being a better you.
Yeah.
What else was I going to say? I don't know. I think I was like all
It's
over.
fine.
Yeah.
This is the cozy. We've been doing Kwanzaa Reflectathon. This is our 3rd year, and this year is all about being super, super cozy. So it's totally fine. I'm curious, before we get into your reading, I want to know a little bit more about your perspectives on Kwanzaa and how you experience Kwanzaa as somebody who is from the African continent. If you want to talk about that, we can go straight to books. It's completely up to you.
Nigeria is a country. Our relationship with religion is very funny because African traditional religion is in our very core. People casually mention it, it's by people who brought in Christian jihad that was executed along northern Nigeria. Even a lot of Nigerians do not recognize the fact that there were actually indigenous religions in the north before Islam came and with brutal force enforced, Islam as a religion in the north. So there was that, and then the Europeans came, particularly the British, because they just cannot sit their asses in their homes. No, they have to. They came, and they came with Christianity, which they then forced on Nigerians. So we live in a country, I live in a society where even in the way in which religion is practiced, there's a bit of traditional religions brought in, and that is African traditional religions. And even with that, there's still this whole air of we don't talk about it, even though your neighbor might actually have been a Shushe for me, and then they changed it to Oluwashe for me, be like, oh, let us be Christian. But Nigerians don't really celebrate Kwanzaa. I didn't know about Kwanzaa until I joined BookTube. Yes, because I participated in the very first ever Kwanzaa Reflectathon. Which by the way I won. It was so satisfying. So because Jerry has this little notes that she writes with the book and everything is so cute. Anyway, so that was the very first time I learned about Kwanzaa. And that was the very first time I realized that, December does not have to be a Christian-based holiday.
Yeah.
Which I found surprising. Because when you live in a country where religion is practically forced down your throat and it's a particular type of religion, then when you realize that there are so many other celebrations that are happening across the world with people whose skin color are like yours, who have created a way of, celebrating, remembering their ancestry, and also bringing in their culture and making this holiday theirs. It was eye-opening, but also a very joyful discovery for me. Because like I said, Christmas is so tied to Christianity, and I'm like, that is so tied to colonialism, but a lot of Nigerians are not ready to have that conversation.
Yeah. I think that for me, so I've been practicing Kwanzaa for many, many years now, definitely over 10 years, but in different ways each year. And certainly one of the reasons why I created the Kwanzaa Reflectathon in 2018 was to say, okay, So BookTube is a space where there are a lot of Black content creators who have already been doing some really important work, and who continue to do that work. Because I say that because I think it's important to honor people who have created things before you came along, because I think that there's a tendency in the BookTube community to steal ideas without properly attributing those who went before you, right? And
True.
as
who paved the way.
Exactly, right? And there's a tendency to do that, and I think that the higher way of being is to innovate, and also to honor the inspirations that got you to be where you are. And I think that what Kwanzaa does for me is it says, you know what, we're not competing with Christmas, with Hanukkah. We're not competing with Diwali. We're not competing with New Year's. These are all important celebrations that happen, that diasporic people participate in, that African people participate in, continental African people participate in. And this can happen in conjunction with, and in fact, it can actually amplify your experience of these other events, whether it's by showing you how much they are not centered on Blackness, on Africanness, or by allowing you a lens that you can sort of apply on top of them, right? In addition to it being an alternate. And I feel like for me, like you talked about traditional African religions, and there's an interesting relationship with people who maybe identify as Christian but still have their ancestral altars or still pray, to gods and stuff, and sort of find a way to make it work. Yeah, I think that's that's where it aligns. So self-determination. So this is the second day of Kwanzaa, and the principle is Kujichagulia, or Kujichagulia, or Kujichagulia, depending on how you pronounce it. I say Kujichagulia, and self-determination. One of the reasons why I invited you to be the guest for this one is because you are one of the most self-determined people I know. And in particular, as a content creator this year, you have been able to innovate and to create new content, and to, and I'm speaking in particular, your innovation, which is the fuckathon. So that's one thing that I'm talking about, but also the sort of like debate that you had about, like, trash my favorite book, that event that you had, and just also
the book roast.
Yeah, the book roast, and also and to do all of that while dealing with COVID-19, also while being an important part of the #EndSARS movement. And Kujichagulia is about self-determination to define ourselves, to name ourselves, to create for ourselves, and to speak for ourselves. And as a Black queer woman, defining oneself, naming oneself, creating for oneself, and speaking for oneself, that bears additional resonance, I think. So my question for you is, how has this principle impacted your relationship with reading and content creation on BookTube this year?
I think to answer that question, I would go back to when I started my channel, because I think so many of us, when we first created channels, we have not actually defined who we are. We've not defined our voices. And I grew up in a school with a teacher that believe that the best way for you to find your own voice is at first to explore the voices of others, and then eventually you figure out exactly how you best sound like.
Yeah.
And I joined BookTube in 2018. It was, I can never forget it. It was a week before my first video went up on, I filmed my first video the week before Aki Festival. For those that don't know, and I know a lot of people will not know, Aki Festival is a book and, hey baby, sorry, my cat is just like
Hi,
demanding
Kung
attention. Okay, so for those that, hi baby, yeah, but see you. Now you're all grumpy and stuff. When you were pulling at my braid and trying to get my attention, you did not know. Okay, so for those that do not know, Ake is a literary festival that is held in Lagos every year in October. And when I was about to go for it, and I stumbled on a couple of BookTube videos, and I'm like, oh, this would be so cool to find a community. But at that point in time, I didn't know why I was creating it. I just felt like, okay, I want to talk about books. But at the same time, 2018 was a year after I finally came out to myself as being queer. Prior to then, I was convinced that, you know, the emotions I felt were normal, and they were, every straight woman felt that way. Turns out that that was true. At that point in time when I created my channel, I was going through a period of trying to define who Noria is. And that was also the period when I started going by Noria. Um, if you didn't know me before 2018, you would have called me Sandra, because like I said, Nigeria is a very, we're still dealing with the after effects of being colonized. And most Nigerians have an English name. So my English name was Sandra. That was the name that everybody knew me as. And when I started on this journey of who is Sandra? What does she like? Who does she like? Um, who does she want to be? What does she think she can be? What is holding her back? Um, it's led me to having a name change, right? Not a name change, because Noria is my name, is also my middle name. But now I've gotten so comfortable, and I'm like, why have I never like insisted that people call me Noria, call me Noria, because that's my name. And then, I started my channel, and I'm like, what do I want to talk about? And I remember when I was thinking about the Fuckathon, and because readathons are a part of BookTube, and everybody loves to read books. Like, we read books. Readathons are opportunities for us to read more books. But I felt like reading, because I stated earlier that, and like we both agree, that reading is more than just books, words on a page.
Yeah.
Right? It's a statement. It's a means to understand the world, is a means to demand better of the world, is a means to educate ourselves and also educate people around us. Reading is crucial that way. And I was like, why don't I come up with a readathon that actually is centered around real life issues? Because the books we read and the issues that we deal with and these characters encounter in books, they are also connected to it. And it was also birthed from one of my friends, like one of my friends going on like, she does not understand why people think that books are so far from reality, when, as a matter of fact, books have helped define her reality. And I was like, oh, that is true. So the Fuckathon, it was created as a means to get people to ask questions, to go outside their comfort zones, to also explore books that they might not have otherwise picked up about issues that are real to them, but they never actually really consider reading about.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first had the idea, and I was thinking, oh, what to call it? Because, part of defining is also naming, which was why going by Noria was pivotal for me. So I sat down for a long time and I'm like, what do I want to call this readathon, where it's basically a fuck you to so many oppressive systems? And I'm like, why don't we just go with fuckathon? And I remember I was like bouncing it off a friend of mine, Chidozie, and Chidozie was like, only you, Noria, will come up with such a name. And I'm like, but it's good, isn't it? And it's like, it's amazing. I'm saying, thank you. So I came up with a fuckathon. And the reception has been amazing. The reception has been amazing. People have been like, oh my God, I never really did consider it. And coming up with the fuckathon was also an opportunity for me to come up with recommendations, because I decided if I'm going to task people to read about these issues, then the onus is on me as well to tell them that, oh, here is a resource and here is a place to start. So I'm telling you, fuck religious intolerance, and I'm telling you to read a book featuring a religion that is separate from yours. And then I decided I'm going to do a recommendation video of 20 books, 20 religions. So one book per religion. And that was fun. That was so much fun.
That was one of my favorites.
But I know. I was just like, oh my God. I was calling my friends. I'm like, can you recommend a book with Satanism? Like not Satanism the way in which pop culture has turned it into this evil thing, because it is an actual valid religion. And it was interesting. It was interesting having that. And I don't know if I answered your question, because I tend to ramble a lot. So I'm just like, did I answer Jerry's question?
You did, and it's cozy. And I'm going to ask you to talk about one book, and I know you're a very prolific reader, but I'm going to ask you to talk about one book or more that exemplifies the principle Kujichagulia, self-determination. But I want to get to some of the comments as well. And if you are here watching, so right now there are 19 of us here in community as a part of this discussion. Kujichagulia is self-determination. Everybody has read at least one book this year. So think about whether that book or any of the other books that you read have reflect the themes of self-determination. So was there a character that defined themselves? Were you able to better define yourself as a result of reading the book? Was there a coming of age story? I mean, for those of you who read young adult fiction and middle grade fiction, often there's a coming of age element, which is definitely an example of self-determination. A lot of stories we both read a lot of fantasy, but a lot of stories that are about communities of resistance are about collective self-determination, or the impact of one individual's self-determination on the collective. And then stories where people can find and express their power, whether it's a magical otherworldly power or the power that comes from self-definition and self-possession. That can be examples as well. So yes, please do include any reads. So let's look at some comments. Hi, Tommy. Welcome. Tommy's excited for today's live show. So great. Hey, Shay with the hobbies. Hello. Hi, Tati. Shit. Hi. I always do that. Hi, Brittany. Hi, Brittany. And hello.
Hi. Yay.
Hi, Cordelia. Welcome back.
Hi, Shay.
And hello, my written voice. Glad you're here. I know. I
was like, oh my God, Tati's in the comments.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, she's not. No,
hi,
she's not. This is ridiculous. And hi, Denise. Welcome back. Okay, and we have some exciting contributions. So My Written Voice, Now is the Time to Open Your Heart by Alice Walker. So Now that you're the first person who has entered a book title, can you please also include a comment where you talk about what was it about that book? I haven't read that book. So what was it about that book that reflected the topic for you? Denise, The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. You feel the main character, Kara, really exhibits and reflects the principle of Kujichagulia. Cool, Denise. Thank you for that. And can you tell us a little bit more about how Kara exhibited and reflects? Was it a coming of age? Was it a character arc? Was it, succeeding despite the odds? Like, tell us a little bit more about that. And also the genre of that book would be great. Denise loves your channel, Noria, and all of your videos. So, shout out to you because you are amazing.
I think Space Between Worlds is sci-fi.
Is it sci-fi? The Space Between Worlds?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello, Sherri. Welcome back. Kabargani.
Yeah. Also, I think that there's a lag from my end. But yeah, I think it's science fiction, because isn't The Space Between Worlds? Which one is it? Because there are two. There's one where the girl apparently has alternate selves or something, and apparently someone was killing her alternate self, or she has to step into her alternate self's life. It's very sci-fi, intergalactic, right?
So
and I'm trying to remember. I think it's Space Between Worlds, because the name Micaiah Johnson sounds familiar.
So Micaiah Johnson is a biracial author who was raised in a Jehovah's Witness community in the Southern California desert. And the book is described as this. So it's a stunning science fiction debut. It's a cross-dimensional adventure and a powerful examination of identity, privilege, and belonging. Born in the dirt of the wasteland, Kara has fought her entire life just to survive. Now she has done the impossible and landed herself a comfortable life on the lower levels of the wealthy and walled-off Wiley City. So long as she can keep her head down and avoid trouble, she's on a sure path to citizenship and security on this world, at least. And of the 380 realities that have been unlocked, Kara is dead in all but 8. Kara's parallel selves, you're right, are exceptionally good at dying from disease, turf wars, and vendettas they couldn't outrun, which makes Kara wary and valuable. Because while multiverse travel is possible, no one can visit a world in which their counterpart is still alive, and no one has fewer counterparts than Kara. But then one of her 8 doppelgangers dies under mysterious circumstances, and Kara is plunged into a new world with an old secret. What she discovers will connect her past and future in ways she could never have imagined, and reveal her own role in a plot that endangers not just her Earth, but the entire multiverse. Okay, come on, multiverse. I'm liking that. Thank you very much. So we were just reading the synopsis for The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. Thank you for the recommendation, Denise. I think I might actually pick that up. Well, and Sherri, yes, you talked about All Boys Aren't Blue. And
because I know I saw the synopsis and I was like, it's so cool.
Yeah. Hi, Michelle. Nice to see you. Space Between Worlds. Yes. The main character is an older Black woman. She's searching for something. She does not feel that she has achieved her life's arc. She goes on a riverboat trip with a group of various women. Oh, that's lovely. That's the Alice Walker one. So that is now is the
Alice
time
Walker.
to open up.
Yeah.
Okay. And then a major theme of the book is accepting fluidity in life, with work, with romantic partners, etc. Cool. Hey, Dejasaur, nice to see you. Now That I've Found You is a good one for this. It's a young adult contemporary, and the main character is at low point at the very beginning, and she learns over the course of the book to not let others define her. That's really important. Don't let other people define you. That's a very powerful theme. So Thanks for sharing that. Oh, and she's Black. She's a Black up and coming actress. Love it. Cool. Denise, don't want to give spoilers. I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent about spoilers for the most part, but thank you for caring because I know a lot of people don't like them. Kara decides for herself to take things into her own hands, and it is evident from the first chapter. Nice. That's cool. And she's also faced with a villain who tries to define her, put her in a box, and Kara refuses to let that define her and defy the odds against her. And you love you some YA contemporary. Yes, awesome. Okay, thank you for all of those wonderful comments. So Noria, oh, sorry, last one. Also, the book is amazing. Definitely. Yes, all of the, I love the Kwanzaa Reflectathon recommendations. That's always, it's always a really good byproduct of the Reflectathon. So, what are your Kujichagulia reads of 2020? And I'm going to get my tea right here. Yes.
Oh, see, I was just like, oh my God, it could be so many books. But there's a book I started because I did a 15 books I want to read by the end of the year video. Sherri's laughing at me because last time we spoke, I was like, I've read 0.5 books. But now, Sherri, we can add like 2 books to that. I finished 2 books so far, 13 more to go in 5 days. And I would be going with this book over here. I don't know if you can see it. It says Lakiriboto Chronicles, right? A Brief History of Badly Behaved Women by Ayodele Olofuntuade. One, I am so sad that this book is not internationally published because I searched on Amazon because I want to. You know, when you read a book, when you finish a book and you want to buy for all your friends and you're like, I want to buy this book so you can read it. I want to buy for all my friends, but I can't ship it to them because Amazon does not have this book. So I have to like call the author and ask her if there's any way people, like international audiences, can get this book. Right. What is Lakiriboto Chronicles about? We start this book with the death of Moremi's grandmother, Alaja. And you have to understand that the story of Moremi was about her being defined by so many things. So first, she was defined as the daughter of a drug addict because her mother was a junkie, living in Peckham before her grandmother brought her to Nigeria. And she was raised, like, she went from living as you would with a junkie to living with a grandmother who loves her. But when her grandmother dies, her circumstances change again. And she goes from being a daughter to a granddaughter and now to a housemaid. Because her uncles decide to send her as a maid to live with a cousin in Lagos. And Nigerians have this housemaid thing that is basically indentured servitude. They barely treat the children right. They barely give them an education. And there's so many things that come with that. So she's dealing with, she goes there at age 13. That's one girl, right? That's one person. The second person, Kudirat, is, she's also sent to Lagos as an housemaid. In fact, both herself and Moremi are sent to the same household. Kudirat is sent because her father was told seemingly that she's an emiri. Emiri is the Yoruba term for, Ogbanjes. If you've read Akwekemezi's Freshwater, you would understand the stigma that comes with, like, so they basically believe she's a spirit and she's tying the womb of her mother and preventing her mother from, having a son and basically bringing ill will, in quotes, to the family. So Kudirat is also sent to Lagos. Unlike Moremi, Kudirat now goes from being daughter to being housemaid, but she is happy because she feels that, Lagos has so much opportunities because she does not really understand the limitations that is placed on a maid, right? And then the third woman, Tola, is the wife that they are sending both Moremi and Kudirat to stay with. She is currently suffering from postpartum depression and also has psychotic episodes, multiple personality disorder, and is living with a husband who is abusive, gaslighting her. Apparently, we find out later that he's been drugging her as well. A lot of things. And then the last woman, right? The last woman is Morieba, who is Moremi's aunt. She is self-made, very confident, very successful, takes no shit, and is gay as fuck. So you have these 4 women, actually 2 women and 2 girls, and the story takes place over a year. So by the time we get to the meat of the story, the girls are grown up, right? So this story follows the 4 women pushing back against the family because they are all within the same family, the Alagbado family, who would see them silenced, who would see them learn their place and stay in their place. But it is a brief history of badly behaved women, and they are not staying in their place, especially because all this is triggered by the death of Alaja 6 years prior. And my favorite cameo in this, other than the women, because the women are spectacular. Like I said, it's a book about the definition of who you are changing and what that means when it is that the power does not reside with you. What that means when you take back your power and demand your agency, and what women who come together to support one another, what they can achieve. Because between these 4 women, they change the fate of their entire family. And for you to understand what that means, Nigerian cultures are very deeply patriarchal. And for women to be the one to tackle the seemingly head of the household, you know, to do that changes the story for all the women around. Also, Ishu features in this, Ishulalu, that's the god of crossroads and mischief, and they are perfection. The way Ayodele writes Ishu is just so entertaining because they are called in, like the like so much more interesting. Why should I do anything to this women? Like I vibes with them really hard. It was entertaining as fuck. So I would say that the self-determination, because even we meet Morieba after she's succeeded, right? But when she's telling us the story of, and that is something, a story resonates with me because she was also shuffled amongst her relatives when she was younger. Nobody wanted to keep her, so she was moved from uncle to aunt to everybody else. And the fact that she would rise from that to become the woman she is in the book is absolutely, it speaks to the strength of her character and just how determined she is. Tola, who pulls herself right from abuse, and her story was just very cathartic. And the 2 girls who went from being pawns, right? There's this conversation that Moremi has with Morieba, right? When Moremi is finally able to give her, like Morieba is able to give Moremi the grand view, like because she was all like, oh, I'm sending you to expensive schools and all of that. And the girl was like, my circumstances change so quickly. I went from a daughter to a granddaughter to a maid, and now you're putting me back into the lap of luxury. That cannot be my story. I have to be able to define what happens to me. So here is what you're going to do. You're going to invest my money. You're going to let me know about this property. You're going to take me along. And I never want to have to depend on anybody or be a pawn again. And Morieba was like, you've grown up. And that moment I was crying. Because as someone who, like, I understood exactly what that felt like, to feel like you're a pawn and to desire to have the power to control your own story and define your own narrative and define who you are. And it's just, it's wonderful. And when Morieba is revealed as being gay in this book, Moremi was just like, the fact that that piece of shit is blackmailing you pisses me off, because there is no big deal and there is no reason for you to feel ashamed. And the fact that he's blackmailing you and contributing to your shame makes me hate him even more. I was just like, this book. I love this book so much, so much. Oh my god. So yeah, I think because I've read so many. There are so many like books that fit, like um,
Yeah.
Kujichagulia. Is it Kuji? Because self-determination is so easy, to find. I won't say it's so easy, but so many characters, like you said, I read a lot of YA. It's a lot of coming of age. So self-determination is part of it. But I was thinking about self-determination that affected a community, like
Yeah.
we were talking about, one that
Yeah.
went beyond just yourself to
And
changing the life of everybody else. And I think that this fits for that.
And I think that that is one of the most important elements of Kujichagulia, which is that, and Kwanzaa is a celebration that encourages us to think about the purpose of our actions and the purpose of our investments of time and energy and money. So there are a lot of people who are self-determined for the wrong reasons and whose self-determination, once actualized, causes harm. And from my perspective, Kujichagulia is not
Yeah.
self-determination for the purpose of the self only, right? It is self-determination because it's understood that once the only way that we can properly contribute to community, to family, to the world, to our people, the only way we can do that is if we are self-determined, right? As parts of a collective, right? So, and part
Yeah.
of it is about doing your part,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? If you are a writer, you should be writing.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a reader, you should be reading. If you are a painter, you should be painting. If you are a dancer, you should be dancing. If you are a poet, you should be writing poems. If you can plant a thing, you should be planting community gardens, right? If you're an artist, you should be drawing. And so the idea of self-determination is about, really saying this is who I am, right? This is part of my being. I am going to do that to the utmost degree
Yeah.
because I understand that in driving and naming myself, I elevate myself to a place of self-empowerment that is for the interests, right? And is to the benefit of my community. And yesterday, Tomi and I participated in an online celebration, Kwanzaa celebration, run by the New York City LGBT Kwanzaa group. And I really appreciated, they had performers for each of the principals. And there was one reading read by two Black trans artists about self-determination. And I won't be able to replicate what they said, but one of them said that, look, like being able to name myself, to identify my gender, to live and name my pronouns, and to exist joyfully in this body as it changes is a gift, right? That is a contribution to the community, and creating space for others to do the same is what aids our communities, right? So I think one of the beauties of the book that you just talked about was, being able, one of the characters who went from all of these different class locations, being able to still be who she needed to be, right? Despite all of the different perspectives that was being imposed upon her, right? So thank you for that. And I'm happy that like we can queer this conversation as well, because I think while all of the different principles of Kwanzaa lend themselves to having a conversation about the importance of these principles from a queer perspective. I think self-determination and certainly coming out and dealing with the challenges of that, and then surviving that, recovering from that, is an example of Kujichagulia that all queer people must in one way or another. So we have a lot of activity in the chat. So let me just go back and see what we've got. So welcome, Katiti. I love that name, by the way, Katiti. It's nice to say. Lucy by Jamaica Kincaid had a lot of this too, just a whole journey of self-discovery and self-definition. Yeah, a lot of Jamaica Kincaid's work. I haven't read any of it, but that's a common theme when of people who have read Jamaica Kincaid. You didn't add, no, you didn't. The Death of Vivek Oji by Akwaeke Emezi, because of Vivek's way of just being himself unapologetically. That's amazing. And also, I'm wondering if anybody read Kaysen Calendar's I think it came out this year. It was a book written by a Black trans
Felix Ever After.
Felix Ever After, yes. I have not yet read that, but I've heard reviews.
Felix Ever After.
Yeah, I've heard reviews of that, and the reviews tell the good reviews, like, i.e. the non-Kirkus review, but the actual good reviews of the book talk about the self-determination of Felix and the fact that Felix was allowed to be petty and allowed to kind of figure it out and be messy, right? And have that as part of the process. But yes, The Death of Vivek Oji by Akwaeke Emezi. Yeah, the fact that you probably finished 15 books in 2 weeks is hilarious and inspiring. So that's just on you, Noria. Yes, The Space Between Worlds. I definitely want to read that. Yeah, come with the girl with the louding voice. Aduni is a Nigerian girl forced into marriage, but is fighting for her education. She's very determined and brave. That's, yes, and that cover is stunning. Have you read The Girl with the Louding Voice?
Not yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Yet. Hold up. Let me see.
Yeah.
So many books. I'm definitely adding it to my cart.
Yes. Yes. Hi, Alba. Agreed. So that's what Vivek had. I think, Cabe, you're responding to my comments on Felix Ever After, this unrelenting way of simply being themselves despite others' discomfort and literal transphobia against them. So yes. Yes. And so
I think this is in response to the trans speaker from the Kwanzaa get together, the way in which you explained that they talked about being able to be themselves in their ever-changing body. I'm not sure, but I think that was like in response to that.
Oh, I see. Okay. And you know what?
I'm not sure. Is it? Because
I'll let maybe Cabe,
although now that you said it could be either.
Yeah, and you should just for people who are watching, there's 23 of us here.
Gotta clarify. Yeah,
in community right now. Definitely make sure that you are following the hashtag, which I'll put in the chat, Kwanzaa Reflectathon, because everyone, both apply. Awesome. So everyone who is posting a video for the Kwanzaa Reflectathon is using that hashtag. So you can use that hashtag to find all of the videos. And I also have a playlist on my channel of all the videos over the past several years of this Reflect-a-thon. So you can definitely check that out, and obviously subscribe to everyone who has offered content to this. And I say that because, Cabe, I watched your video about All Boys Aren't Blue, and it was very lovely and very sweet. And so thank you for uploading that and sharing, how the book impacted you. So definitely check that out as well. So we are in the twilight, the last 10 minutes of our discussion. I want to thank you for being here and chatting. And I also want to give you the last word, Noria. We've talked about your recommended book. We've talked about what Kwanzaa means to you from your perspective. I know it flew by. We've taken some audience participation. What would you like to share with the people before we wrap up in the last 9 minutes?
I guess, speaking on my own journey, right, and also what I've explored and experienced in books, particularly in Black Riboto Chronicles, a lot of the times, society likes to make us think that you should have figured everything out early when you're really young, right? And a lot of the times because self-determination is about exploring, and like we said, it's about defining, it's about asking questions, it's about, following that thread to get you to who you are and because who you are is constantly evolving, right? You're not the same person who you were 20 years ago. And even if you are the same person, you've probably improved on that person, and I think that something that has always resonated for me, with regards that is, it's never too late for you to go on that journey. It's never too late for you to, get started on creating the right life for yourself, pursuing your goals, pursuing your dreams, and also deciding that maybe the path you've been following so far is not the path for you, and you want to change it. Because it takes a lot of determination for you to come to that realization when it's a bit later on in years. And I think we exist in a society that tells you that you should have had everything figured out early enough so you can have a tunnel vision to work towards it, right? And Tola in this book did not figure that out. She didn't figure that out like when she was younger. She didn't come to that realization until she was older. But it did not make her journey and our story less impactful and less powerful, and I'm happy that that resonated with you, Kate. The spirit I felt the spirit leading me that, okay, do you know what? It's something that some of us need to hear. It's something that I needed to hear a year ago, not a year ago, like 2-3 years ago. And it's something I'm sharing now. So it's, whatsoever time you get started on the journey of discovering who you are and defining who you are and following through on who that journey starts for you, is the right time. It's the right time. Don't let anybody tell you any differently, because it just means that you're perfectly positioned to change not just your life, but the life of everybody around you and the life of the community around you. And that is a core principle of Kwanzaa. So yeah, I think that would be what I would end it with.
Thank you for that. And thank you for being an example of Kujichagulia and self-determination this year and every year that you have been on this platform. Your example of self-determination has certainly impacted me as a person, as a content creator. And I know that people who are subscribers to your channel, new and old, and those on this chat, even just listening to you, are feeling that and seeing that. So I really appreciate you being a guest for the Kwanzaa Reflect-a-thon. And with that, just a few announcements. The giveaway for you're most welcome. The giveaway for the 2021 Melanin Eclectic Reading Planner is going on for the rest of the Kwanzaa Reflect-a-thon. So if you would like your name to be in the draw, what you need to do is upload a video and use the Kwanzaa Reflect-a-thon hashtag, and also make sure you're subscribed to ONYX Pages. And at the end of Kwanzaa Reflect-a-thon, I will do the draw and announce the winner, and you will get one of Brittany's planners. And we are going to be here every day for the entirety of Kwanzaa. There will be a different guest each day. So make sure that you check my channel, set your reminders. I think all of our discussions are going to be at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So you can do that as well. So we hope that this discussion has got you thinking about self-determination. I hope that this principle can drive what you intend to read going forward into 2021. And I recommend Noria's channel as a resource for new and interesting reads that can expand your mind and expand your person. So thanks everybody in the comments. Let's just see if there's anything else that folks have said. Oops, hold on. Thanks for sharing your insights. That's the word. Thank you for those words. 100%. Welcome, Owen. Thank you too. Thank you too. All the thank yous. Awesome. Thanks, babe. Thank you. All right. Oh, the one thing that I wanted to say is that an important part of Kujichagulia and creating for yourself is also creating the space for other people to do the same. So in naming yourself, just the act of naming yourself allows people to name themselves too. So as an example of that, in Quarantine Pages, there was a little girl who was there was a child who was attending Quarantine Pages and who heard people talk about using they them pronouns, and during Quarantine Pages shared with their parent that they too were like going to use non-binary pronouns, like they them pronouns, and that was something that happened because others had defined themselves, and this child was able to see that. You were there for that. This child was able to to see that and then do that. And so in defining ourselves and in doing that bravely and boldly and out loud, we give permission to others to do the same. And so that's good. But I said you were going to get the last word, and then I kept on talking. So I'm going to hand the floor over to you, and then we will disconnect. Is there anything else you want to share?
Yes, make sure you film your videos. Make sure you use the hashtag, because British Planner, the reading, oh my God, perfection. You do not want to miss it. It's totally sold out right now. So this is one of your rare opportunities to get the planner. So do not forget, film your videos. We are always looking for recommendations. I follow the hashtags and I follow Njeri's playlist every year, because just getting to see people reading mindfully and purposefully throughout the year, and then being able to reflect on that, and then saying that, oh, these were the lessons I got from this book, and this is how it's connected to Kwanzaa. Every single year, it brings me joy. So please make your videos. Please use the hashtag Kwanzaa Reflect-a-thon. Get in, because you, not just for the content, but also because you need that reading journal in your life. You need that reading planner in your life. I'm just saying, you're going to see us using it on BookTube in 2021. I'm going to be like, oh crap, I wish I had that journal and a voice my voice will be in your head being all like, you could have had it if only you had filmed the video.
All right. Have a good night. Take care, everyone. Happy Kwanzaa. See you tomorrow. Thanks, Noria.
Bye, everybody. My pleasure.